Hello, this is Darth Helmet. I'm back with another last Epoch build video. And this one's a bit tamer, I guess, than my first one. But it's similarly interesting. It's interesting. But not quite as wild. Like, I do think this is something imagined by the devs, even if it's not necessarily meta right now. But here goes. So the basic idea here is we're playing around the new Primalist relic, Soul of the Mountain. It gives you maximum Veil Spirits per 15 attunement. And then you get Veil Spirits every second while in Spriggan form. It's got other stuff on it. The less cast speed isn't as bad as it sounds because it's essentially just compensation for effectively having more cast speed from the extra Veil Spirits. So the basics are we're playing a Spriggan form Spirit Thorns build. So I'll pull that up. So Spriggan form, right? It's got a few different. It's got a few different skills. The important one we're playing around here is Spirit Thorns. It's here. I'll go somewhere where I can just shoot off random stuff. Okay. And I have to actually be in Spriggan form. Okay, there we go. Right. So Spirit Thorns shoots a burst of thorns. And multiple thorns can hit the same target, so you're not wasting it if you're on a single target. But basically, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? It just shoots a bunch of projectiles. And these little orbs rotating around me are those Veil Spirits. Here. Right, you now summon a Veil Spirit every 5 direct casts with Spirit Thorns up to a maximum 3. But with our relic, we can get more than that. We are getting... How many are we getting? It depends, because I've been messing around with gear, so I have different amounts of attunement each time. So, let me think about this. Because the breakpoints that are relevant here are like 105, then 120, so I'm kind of in the middle tier. It'd be nice if I could get to 120, but with 105, that is 7 extra Veil Spirits, so that's 10. If we got to 120, we'd have 11. So, but as you can see, each one fires off of things. You get a lot of extra projectiles. And these projectiles are nicer than you would think for being like a single target thing. They track enemies. And with this node, Branch Storm, they also... pierce enemies, so you're not just like they effectively become AoE. They get to hit a lot of stuff. It's not quite the same screen clearing nonsense you could get with other builds, but it's pretty solid for what it is. The rest of the stuff in the tree, less important. We're getting Rage and Ward whenever we cast it. I'm not 100% sure. One of the things that I'm still not fully sure on in the build is just how much rage gen I need. Right now, it's definitely too much. We get rage from the belt. We get rage from this. We get rage from... here. Rage on crit. Originally, I had this stuff, which reduced the rage decay, but that just turned out not to be necessary. But I could, with the amount of rage you get from the hits and the crits, I could totally see dropping like the belt. Like I had an amulet that gave rage per second based on the vines I had down, which it's not a vine build, but you can incidentally get vines either with there are boots that summon vines as you run around. I'm not wearing those anymore. I also have this ring that turns your summon vines into a movement skill, and then it also summons 6 of them at once. Wait, is that true? Or is that just the default? No, it summons 6. Why is that? Oh, 100% increased. So, norm base 3. And I guess if you had more max, then it would... Yeah. But yeah, so you could do that. I eventually swapped it out for a Nihilist just because, like I said, I don't really need the extra rage gen. And now I get extra skill points for all my skills, which is of varying degrees of relevance. Spriggan form is definitely a super skill point hungry tree. Like you can get all this stuff. You can get the defensive nodes. You can get the what's it called? Thorn shield stuff, which is I'm not casting it directly, but Hazel Root gives me a chance to cast it on myself whenever I use a physical skill. So if you'll see there, it's like casting on me. And this gives me some defenses and burst. I found that in practice it was kind of hard to keep it up enough to be, you know, something that could be relied upon. That's why I put more points into this, which is just always on defenses, as opposed to this, which could theoretically go higher, but depends on you having stacks of the stuff up. Yeah, okay, so other things going on. So we have the Solid Mountain. The thing that goes with this, as far as like, we have some stuff that also likes attunement stacking. We have Hazel Root, which gives us spell physical damage per 3 attunement. So just a bunch of flat damage for stacking the thing we wanted to stack anyway. I'm not 100% sure if this is actually better than running like just a really high-end exalted scepter or wand or whatever, but it works, and it's relatively cheap to get. You can use it starting from level 21, so like, you know, very easy to grab. I've gotten a bunch of 1LP ones, a few 2LP ones, and I just recently got a 3LP one. Granted, the third affix doesn't matter as much. The suffixes on the scepters aren't that good for us. There's basically just shared physical penetration, but not as needed. But anyway, so you like stacking up attunement. And then going through the other skills, we had... Oh, and I guess just to show, we get crit avoid per attunement, we get stun avoidance per attunement. So there's some other outputs for the attunement. I will say it's a lot less than I would like. Like, there aren't, I think, enough ways to convert the attunement into defenses for me to be happy with this variant, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, in particular, it basically gives you mana, right? Which could mean you could maybe use that helmet. You'd think, oh, maybe you could use that helmet that takes your mana as a kind of health pool, except that doesn't work with rage. So, not ideal. So yeah, that would be nice. But anyways, right, so you have Spriggan form. Oh, right, and then the last thing that cares about attunement here is this dodge rating per attunement, which, I mean, it's not a dodge build, but it's nice to have. And we're also running Foot of the Mountain, so while we're standing still, we can convert that dodge rating into endurance threshold. So, like, you can see, just standing here, I have a decent amount of endurance threshold. Other skill. Alright, so other skills. So we have Summon Brigand Form, and so one of the problems I had with trying to make this build is there's not a lot of, like, great supporting options, just because you're so limited in, like, what you can even cast while you're in Spriggan form. The things that hook in are, like, Entangling Roots, except that consumes our Veil Spirits, so we don't like that. There's the Healing Totem stuff, which is a route you could take. You have this node that has a chance to cast your Spirit Thorns from the Healing Totems, but I don't know, it didn't really feel like it was doing enough to justify having to press another button, and I don't know, you could maybe go for this, and you'll see I ended up swapping it out for Tornado. But yeah, you can do this, but it also just takes a lot of points to get to the Thorn Totem stuff, because you have to spend 4 points into this, then a point here, and then more points here if you want to summon more, like, you know, more of them. Right, but so the supporting skills I'm really not 100% sure about. Oh, right, there's also, like, you get Maelstrom when you cast Spirit Thorns. You can get it when you directly cast Thorn Shield, but we're really not looking to directly cast Thorn Shield because we get so much from casting Spirit Thorns that it's sort of a waste of our time. That also means that Breath of Atera's Blessing is another thing that hooks into Spriggan form with this Rose Bloom, but it's only direct cast, so if we're not doing direct cast, that's useless to us. But yeah, so I'm mostly using Summon Spriggan for two reasons. One is just a companion is something you can have out while you're in Spriggan form, and it's like having a passive. And it's giving us some nice things. It's giving us the dodge rating per attunement. It's giving us spell damage. And perhaps the most important thing it's giving us is this Crit Avoid. It's a little overkill, though. I could maybe actually drop some points from this, but I don't know where else I'd put it, so maybe not. But Crit Avoid, between this and the Crit Avoid per attunement, it just completely caps our attunement. But it is overkill. Like, my Crit Avoid is at 140%. So it's awkward because if we don't have the Summon Spriggan, it's below 100%, which, you know, below 100% might as well be 0%, because that one time that attack will kill you if it crits, it will crit. Guaranteed. This is also why I really don't like dodge. But yeah, so we kind of need it for now. I guess I could solve this by just putting like a Crit Avoid, like an Exalted Crit Avoid mod somewhere, but we use so many uniques that it's kind of a problem fitting in a lot of extra mods, which is an issue with scaling up this build. So there's Summon Spriggans. Gathering Storms is another one that gets you some passive benefit because you can auto-cast it from some things. Notably, most of the tree is actually kind of useless because all of this Storm Stack stuff, there's basically, it's a little confusing, but there's two mechanics. There's the Storm Stacks and the Storm Bolts, and like there are things that cast Storm Bolts when you expend Storm Stacks, but there are also things such as in Maelstrom that cast Storm Bolts for you, but that's not based on your Storm Stacks. And the only ways to actually generate storm stacks involve either hitting things with gathering storms, which means being in melee and not being in spriggan form, which is obviously terrible for us. There is a ranged thing you can get if you use a staff, but we're not using a staff. Maybe there's some version of this where instead of going for the Hazelroot stuff, you go for a two-handed staff, but that's not the version I've done, so whatever. And once you have one stack up, if you had like a minion with lightning skills, like either Storm Crows or like lightning converted wolves, then with the helmet that does that, then you could run this, and that would keep it up for you, but you'd still have to do that one melee attack or one staff, cast in order to make that happen. So like all of the storm stack in this tree's stuff is useless. The only things that actually matter are actually it's literally just this Earth Smasher. It's physical converted, so now our storm bolts are physical for our physical damage things. Honestly, that might not even be that relevant now that I'm thinking about it. Just because, oh, and then this. Whenever you hit a boss or rare with a Storm Bolt, chance to cast it again. So that does something. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's an argument for getting rid of Gathering Storms, because you get the Storm Bolts anyway. But who knows. Oh, and I guess this gives it crit per Maelstrom, so that's somewhat relevant. Next up, I guess Maelstrom is the one thing that I'm pretty sure just always makes sense. You get it for free from casting Spirit Thorns, and it cuts this Cyclone. It's Fizz converted, which isn't that relevant because most of the time you're not actually going to be hitting things. It's not a hit. It's a damage over time, so all the crit scaling you're doing isn't going to matter. But the reason you're doing this is global more Fizz damage per Maelstrom stack. Cool. It also casts some Storm Bolts for us. Also, I took this stun chance stuff. I'm not actually sure how much this is working, but it sort of seems like I'm briefly stunning enemies, so maybe. It also gives like haste and frenzy, so this is just sort of there as a nice passive buff, basically. And then the last thing. This is a late swap into the build, but I kind of like it. This would have been like the Thorn Totems into Healing Totem stuff from before, but instead what we have is this. At level 72, you can equip Rule of the Simoon. It's a glove that has a chance on hit to cast a Fire Tornado. The rest of the lines of text aren't important. Okay, I mean, it gives you resist and armor, but the Fire Shred isn't useful. The fire damage isn't useful. So it's a little wasteful, but the Fire Tornadoes, you'd think, oh, we're a Fizz damage build. So that actually ends up not mattering, because technically the way it works is if you add a typed flat damage to something, it scales, it gets added as that damage type, even if the skill is another element. So it's still dealing Fizz damage, even though it's fire converted. It's just that we're not getting the base. If we were building a lot of Fizz damage, we wouldn't be getting the benefits of the base damage of the Fire Tornadoes, but whatever. We're surprisingly not actually building that much Fizz. Well, I guess we are with the more damage, more Fizz damage from Maelstrom, but whatever, not important. So we're running Tornado because we get it for free, and you'd be surprised how often this procs. You do so many projectiles, so many hits, that you're basically always putting down tornadoes, like very routinely, even at 30%. So what's Tornado giving us? I think there's a few different ways you could take this. I'm not really sure the best way to do this. There are Stormbolt stuff. So if you like casting more Stormbolts, you got that. There is this stuff, which is buffs. Aspect of the Storm gives us move speed, and then it also gives us cast speed when we take this. This increases the duration, but I'm not sure how useful it is because it doesn't stack, so it's not like the duration is letting you stack it up more. It's just quality of life, but if you're only ever really caring about it when you're hitting enemies anyway, it doesn't matter because you're going to be summoning the tornadoes pretty regularly. There's also this stuff. The tornado dealing more damage, once again, it's like it does something, but it's not that relevant because of it not being a hit-based thing. But this is a hit-based thing. It puts out storm orbs. They are a spell that hits stuff. It's physical. It's not affected by the rest of the modifiers on the tree, so the fact that we aren't taking a lot of the more damage stuff isn't that relevant for it. And then I just make it cast more frequently. But there's other things, like you could make it double cast, you could have it follow you. I haven't tried this, but I don't know. Maybe it could be good, but it doesn't seem that needed. There's also maybe the world where you take the area and pulse strength. So you can like group enemies together, but with the Spirit Thorns, I don't know how relevant that actually is. I'm actually pondering a different version of this build where I base it more around the Thorn Shield. So maybe taking the it follows you around and then groups them up might actually be a relevant thing to try. I'll think about it. I'm not actually sure if that's a good idea, and it's definitely not for this build. So yeah, so those are the skills. That's sort of how they interact with the items. I guess to quickly go through the other stuff that's important. The belt is nice for the rage per second. Also, it gives you a lot of stats. This is necessary if you're doing the tornado version. If you're not doing the tornado version, you just don't use this. Hazel Root, probably. I mean, it could be replaced, but it's what is this build, I guess. If you were doing a different build, this would be different. And we'll talk about that after this. This is nice, so you actually have a movement skill. It's actually a very nice movement skill. It's basically just teleport. Pop! Quick, instant, pretty long range, can like teleport you over some walls. It's good. We could also, for a long time, I was using the Spriggans, the Veil Root or whatever it's called, chest. It gives you plus levels to Spriggan form and some other stuff, but I don't know. I just recently wanted to try this out because I wanted a little bit more tank, and honestly, as hungry for points as Spriggan form is, the build that I've sort of settled on doesn't actually need the points as much. Like, I think I would desperately need the points if I was putting things into the healing totem stuff, for instance. But as things are now, all of the extra points I would get would just go into making stuff that makes me a little tankier, which, if a different piece of armor can provide more tankiness than that, then same thing, right? I don't know if this is accomplishing that, this Wall of Nothing, but it's an idea. Like I said, we get a lot of endurance threshold from the dodge to endurance threshold here. So yeah, maybe it's good. I mean, we're sitting at like 1500-ish, 15.5 stable ward, along with the 2400 health, so it's not bad, I guess. My idols are kind of all over the place. I've got some stuff that's casting Maelstorms for me for free. I've got something that gives me Ellie Res while I'm transformed. That's nice. There are the enchanted idol things that give you rage per second while transformed. Again, maybe with all of this rage gen, I can afford to drop some of this. I don't know. Chance to summon a Thorn totem and then increased spell damage if you have an active totem. I mean, this is kind of just more or less free spell damage. I don't know, it probably could be replaced with other stuff, but... Oh, and then summon haste when you summon a totem. It's also nice. Although we already get haste from Maelstorms, so it's maybe not that relevant. The most interesting part of this setup, maybe more questionable than interesting, is this Hakar's Phoenix. And I'm running this for a very specific, dumb reason. Before this, I was just running like a catalyst with some damage stuff, some like crit multi or whatever. And that's probably better. Like the best in slot version of this is probably something like that. But here's the issue. I'm not like running any like minion health stuff, and my Spriggan kept dying. And remember what I said, I'm not crit avoid capped if I don't have the Spriggan form or the summon Spriggan aura. So that will get me killed if like, and if it's dying, that means the damage if the enemies are putting out is high enough that I'll probably die if I get hit and crit. So yeah, I needed some way to make that not a pain in the ass, so I don't have to like run to wherever my Spriggan died, which also seems dangerous. So this, ignore literally every line of text other than when a companion is down, it's automatically revived after 2 seconds. Nice quality of life. I guess this also gives me some base crit and move speed. I just noticed, I didn't really pay attention to what the base was, but that's something. The really funny thing, though, is this actually improved my damage. Not because it's best for damage, but because it turned out I had so little armor shred in the build that just getting some armor shred from like this tier 6 armor shred was enough to like boost my damage considerably to even make up for the lack of crit multi. So, because like now I can get up like a few hundred stacks of armor shred, whereas before I'd maybe get like 10 to 15. So it wasn't as bad of a damage downgrade as you would think. It might have even been an upgrade for me, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, that's about that. The passive tree's not that interesting. You just take the kind of things you'd expect. Attunement, spell damage, some health where you can. Stats. This gives you some health and endurance thresholds. You get the rage or the crit and rage on crit. I took this to try to make my companion live more. Not good enough on its own, but I guess it helps. Yeah. Shaman gets the stun avoid per attunement. I'm obviously not level 100 yet, so there's other points I could put in, but at this point it's more marginal, you know, a little bit more stats here and there. I guess I took the obligatory points in Beastmaster to get Boarheart for some damage reduction. Alright, let me show you a monolith. This is 350. Did I have one that's higher? I think this might be my highest monolith at the moment. Yes, it is. Okay, 357. So, this isn't like... Oh, right, I'm already here. I don't really... I know a bunch of people will like, get their builds like 1,000 corruption, and like, obviously that's a better way to see how good of a build is, but I don't like spending that much time on these builds. Like, I like getting them... I like making a cool idea, getting it to the point where it sort of does stuff, and then moving on. So getting it to be over 300 corruption and then being able to kill Aberoth is like my standard for success. If I'm really enjoying a build and it's obviously really strong, maybe at some point I'll take it much higher to like Uber Aberoth, but I have so many random build ideas that I kind of doubt that's going to matter. Maybe an Arena Echo wasn't the best thing to show, just because, well, you can see, I'm just standing here. I mean, if you can just stand here, it's quite nice. And actually, there are some boots that buff up Spirit Thorns, but make it so you can't move while you're in Spriggan form. I considered those for the build, but it just doesn't seem practical. But hey, if you could only do Arena... But even then, like, you do sometimes have to move, right? Unless you got really, really tanky, which... I don't know, maybe I could make that happen. This isn't that far off from being, like, a really good tanky build. Yeah, I don't care. Let's do a not arena one, just to show, because then I can also show, like, moving around with the build. Like, see, like, I can move, like, a screen and a half away with this teleport. It's quite nice. I've been pondering the version of the build where I take those boots and then I just get a lot of cooldown reduction and my only movement is teleporting around with this, but that sounds too memey. You could also consider, you know, not being in Spriggan form all the time, but you get, setting aside the fact that I don't want to have to do that, you actually, remember, you gain the Veil Spirits over time while you're in Spriggan form. So not being in Spriggan form while you're running around is kind of actively detrimental. Like, there might be a build with that. It's just not this build for, you know, transforming. No, I'm not 100% sure about that. I suppose the thing does still help you get Veil Spirits faster. You're just not going to be running around at max Veil Spirits that often if you're constantly turning back into human or, like, maybe bear transformation. Well, that was just kind of going a bit slow. Yeah, you get the gist. The fire tornadoes help out a bit. I don't really know how much damage they're contributing, but at the very least, they're providing a buff. They're providing more Stormbolt procs. They're stacking up, like, my armor shred. Even if they don't do a lot of damage, they're not useless. It's just, it's possible there might be a better choice. Monolith's a little long. Also, you are quite happy when you do get to plant your feet and just shoot stuff, because it's easier to build up your stacks of Maelstrom and Thorn Shield, and you'll see once you stop moving, you get the benefit of the endurance threshold from the boots. I leveled up. I suppose the problem with relying on Maelstorms for the haste is that once the stacks decay, if you're just running around and there's nothing to kill, it goes away. But as long as you're killing things. One thing I'm kind of hoping for, I am currently wearing a red ring, but it's a red ring I had from another character that has strength on it. I would ideally like an attunement red ring, I'm not actually 100% sure if wearing it right now is correct, just because I could be wearing something with like tier 7 attunement on it, which is what I was wearing before, but yeah, I don't know. 10% damage reduction is 10% damage reduction. Okay, so that's that echo. I don't care. What was I putting points into? Oh, maybe just more attunement wherever I can. Or, yeah, like here, and attunement, endurance threshold. Okay, and then lastly, I will attempt to show an Aberoth run. I just beat it for the first time before I recorded this video. That was my point for wanting to record the video. I can't guarantee that I'll do it again. It's like fine for fighting Aberoth. You can tank quite a few of his things, but there are certainly some things that will kill you if you're careless. So yeah, it's fine. It's not the smoothest though, but it's far from being the worst thing you could take into this fight. And if you have time, just stack up your Maelstorms and Spirit Thorns. Or not Spirit Thorns, Thorn Shield. Like you'll see. Oh, that I can tank most of what they do. That purple attack is really fucking scary. Everything else though is fine. Oop. I am not 100% sure what the range of those little void orbs are. I'm not sure if I was in them or not, but I mean, it seemed fine. I'm not generally the kind of person to make really high damage builds, so I consider it a win if I can get a build I can just stand here and tank stuff. Oh yeah, as far as sustain goes, it's mostly just leech based. You get some leech from the relic, you get some leech from I'm taking it from one of the blessings. But I imagine there's other ways you could build this, like with regen or like healing effect. But not the version I've made. Keep stacking. Oh god, that's... Okay, let me just... I've honestly never been killed by that before. I guess I just teleported somewhere where it wasn't far enough. I didn't quite realize. Alright, one more go at this. I'm not gonna, like, really push this, but you sort of get the idea of what the build can do. Also, I think one thing to note, I think cast speed is, like, very, very important on the build. You get so many benefits from casting a lot of these, and with the minus cast speed you get, it's important to make up for that. But like the cast speed lets you get more Maelstorm stacks. It gets you get more Thorn shields. It seems important. Also, when you can stand near things, I actually think it's better to stand near things because then the Thorn shields are also proccing your armor shred. Kind of funny on this fight. The big guy basically always dies first just because he's not zipping around, so he's always getting hit. I also kind of wish I had a source of kill threshold, but I don't know. Don't know where I'd get that. Okay. This time, don't stand in the thing. Yeah, like this should be fine. And I always try to get back to the top just so that I'm like more or less putting the void beams in the same place each time. I'm not great at remembering to do that throughout all the phases, but you should try. I suppose it also doesn't have to be the top, but considering the first one is likely to be on the oh, void balls. The first one's likely to be on the top just because of where you start the fight, right? So might as well just keep it there. Yeah, you can tank one of these slams just fine. If you tank the second, you'd be kind of set. It's actually the worst thing you could probably do is try to move for that, because if you like move, screw up, and get hit, and then you get hit by another while you're trying to run away from it, that's terrible. That could potentially get you killed. And having an actual teleport movement skill is nice for getting over that route, because if you have something that just charges over it, that doesn't work. You still get caught. I somehow still get stunned sometimes from some things like that, even though I have what should be a pretty decent amount of stun avoid. Yeah, whatever. I guess I don't have a lot of health is part of the issue. I would very much like to be able to get more health, but it's hard to get more health when you're using so many uniques. You just don't have the affix slots for both getting like attunement and HP. Alright, so now I don't like standing in the top quadrant in this phase because those cold waves chill you and that's super annoying. But you still kind of want to try to end up there sometimes just for the void beams, so it's a bit tricky. I don't know the exact timing, so you just kind of have to get a feel for it and watch. Oh, try to do that. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, like I said, not great at keeping the void beams straight when I'm in this phase where I'm not on the top. Okay. Yeah. Oh, what the? Oh, I still didn't get hit. I'm kind of shocked. I've never seen him turn like that after he already starts saying die. But also, oh, fuck. Oh, that's really bad. This is what I get for trying to talk while I'm doing this. I say like I wouldn't be getting hit anyway. Oh, my guy went down, but you'll see he gets rezzed. Oh, he's gonna just die again, though. I guess Sakar's Phoenix can only do so much. It's like when your healers are like doing their fucking best, but oh no. But your DPS keeps standing in fire. It's like, well, what can you do? Oh, I should not have done that. Alright, we're good. Oh. Alright. Oh, I should have used that to destroy a void puddle. Oh, and there's another void puddle. Try not to teleport into the black void. And you always need to go to the other edge in this phase. Like, there's just barely enough room to make that happen. Oh, I didn't follow my own advice. I tried to move for that. It's fine, though. I did end up only getting hit by one. Oh! Ah! I just ran into a clump of void beams. I panicked. So, I didn't get the kill, but you get the idea. I could have gotten that if I hadn't fucked up at the end. So that's the build. It's, you know, a very solid, like, middle-of-the-road build. Like, if you're not looking to play something super OP that's gonna just make the game feel boring, but you also don't want to just hit empowered monoliths and start dying, this might be the build for you. Okay, to quickly talk about some variants, I just gotta do this. I saw an interesting idea for a variant where you use Polaris's Sacred Light. It gives you spell damage based on your strength, and then you stack up a bunch of strength. You would run the Last Bear set to give yourself a bunch of regen, and then you could also take things like this to give you regen per strength. You take this to give you armor per strength, and then you do a bunch of damage. Like, what it's probably less damage, but you get to be tankier. Like, the problem with attunement is you don't really get to turn it into tankiness that much, but strength you do. Hypothetic, and the problem with that is you don't get as many Veil Spirits, but you also don't get the cast speed debuff as much, so maybe it's fine. I don't know. You could also maybe just do a hybrid version, like you dual wield and you run a Hazel Root and a Polaris, and then you stack attunement and strength. I don't know. I don't know if that actually makes any sense. Maybe it doesn't. But then you get the best of both worlds, or the worst. One of the two. I mean, the fact that stacking attunement obviously still gives you increased damage, so that might be important. The other interesting idea I've seen is, again, stacking strength, but specifically so that you don't get a lot of Veil Spirits. And then what you do is you use this Veil Tide whenever you hit max Veil Spirits. You consume them to do Entangling Roots, and it does more damage, and you get Rage back. To be clear, not my idea. I saw this from someone on the forums. Pretty cool idea, but I haven't tried it. It doesn't sound like they tried it either, but they were interested in it, so putting it out there. Maybe someone tries that and gets back to us. But yes, because this, as far as I can tell, right, this doesn't actually say it does more damage per Veil Spirit consumed, so having more of them doesn't really help you. So you'd want to just as quickly get to the cap as possible, and, you know, casting 15 Spirit Thorns might take a little while, so instead you get 1 per second here. So at worst, right, it takes you 3 seconds to be able to cast an Entangling Roots, and assuming you cast like 5 during that time, you know, 2 seconds. And that's the build. I will briefly talk about what I'm considering next, because it's very adjacent to this build. It's not a Spirit Thorns thing. But I can just sort of use a lot of the same gear, because I'm going to be stacking attunement again. I'm going to be in Spriggan form. Here's the bad idea, and I will I'll see if it's even worth making a video about. Bees. bees. Bloodkeeper's Nest. Oh, I actually don't have one that's that well rolled, unfortunately. Actually, I thought I had one with LP. Bloodkeepers. I do, but it's not good, and also only 7 per second. But yeah, so Bloodkeeper's Nest spawns bees per second while you're in Spriggan form, and then it has this stat scaling. I've tried making this work before, and they just didn't do a lot of damage. Maybe there's some version of this that I could get working, but the other idea I had associated with this was when you directly cast Thorn Shield, the nearest bee also gains Thorn Shield. So it's a Thorn Shield build. You and you just use this to get a bunch of extra Thorn Shields, right? Because you get one extra Thorn Shield when you cast. You get a third of a Thorn Shield whenever, a third on average of a Thorn Shield whenever you cast. So you're getting an average of 2.3 Thorn Shield for every Thorn Shield that you cast. And then there's other stuff that would let you get it more, like bulb growth to up to a 30% chance to recast it. I don't think you would take them lasting longer because you want the damage, right? So them lasting longer is delaying the damage. Whereas if you're using them for tank, right, obviously you want them lasting longer. But yeah, you'd take like the more damage here. You'd take maybe this so that it also goes on your vines. And then not that it's as relevant, but you can get up to 10% chance to cast Thorn Shields on yourself when you get hit, but that also isn't a direct cast, so you're not getting the 2.3, but it's another chance to cast it. And the hope is that somehow that does a bunch of damage. I mean, surely if you like double or triple something you're casting, that's gotta be good, right? Right? It's not gonna suck. We'll find out. Anyway, that's the build. Hope you liked it. Interested to hear if you have some ideas or optimizations. And I'll stop it there.